learn how to turn these drawings into something that you can distribute to other people, either on paper or in more likely PDF files these days. We don't print a whole lot of stuff out anymore, at least not in sound. There's a couple things you need to be aware of here. So let me take this file as an example. So this is just a drawing that I've done, and when I want to distribute this to somebody, I need to do what's called plotting it. I have to plot it. This goes back to those old pen-style plotters that used to be the only option when you were going to print on a big, huge piece of paper. Now, of course, we have actual printers that can handle a huge piece of paper, but we still call it plotting, just because that's the terminology that AutoCAD still uses. So if you look down here on the bottom of your window, you see where there's this Model tab, and then there's this little plus button, and then you've got Layout 1, Layout 2. So every AutoCAD file is going to come with two layouts, a Layout 1 and a Layout 2. These layouts are where you set it up to plot. So if I click on Layout 1, for example, it takes us here. Now what is going on here is it's automatically given me paper size and what's called a viewport to allow us to see what's going on. If you right-click on the little tab for the layout, you're given a drop-down menu or drop-up menu probably, and this if you go to the Edit Page Setup, it will open up this, and this is where you can kind of set paper size and stuff like that. There's kind of three paper sizes I think you're going to end up dealing with the most. One is 8.5 by 11, which is what most printers do. That's usually too small of a sheet of paper to really fit a drawing like this on and be able to read it. Very few times do we put anything on a piece of paper that small. So the one that works pretty well most of the time for us is this 11 by 17. I think it's called a tabloid sometimes, or ANSI B, but 11 by 17. It's much bigger sheet of paper. It gives you a lot more room. The other one that you'll deal with a lot is probably, like if that's not big enough, then you're going to probably go up to like a 24 by 36 or something, which is this architectural D. That's a pretty big piece of paper. So the decision of like what size of paper really has to do with the size the text is going to be. And if you try to cram it into too small of a paper, that text just isn't going to be readable, even on a PDF where you can zoom in, because the line weights will kick in, and that tiny little text will be really hard to read. So you want to think about how big will the text be when I put it on this size of paper. Some of this is a little bit of trial and error. You can predict it, you can measure and know exactly what's going to happen, but more often you're just going to kind of try one and see, and you realize it's not going to work, and then you'll try a bigger piece of paper. Because the nice thing about AutoCAD is you don't have to commit to a paper size before you start drawing. You can just draw the thing and then figure out how it fits on a paper later. So it's easy to change that. All right, so let's do the 11 by 17 for now, though. And then there's this thing called plot style, and this is where you're choosing, about color or not color, things like that. Now, if you just do print as displayed, it's just going to be exactly what you're seeing here with all those colors. On this kind of a drawing, I'm probably going to want to do monochrome, because I don't want any of those layer colors to actually plot, okay? And then you have these boxes to print with plot styles and display plot styles. Print just means use the plot style when you print. If you turn on the display plot styles, then it will actually show you in this paper space view what it might look like. Okay, so it's going to look like this, just without the viewport grid. So this viewport that it's created is, you think about this like it's a window that it's built that lets you look into what's called the model space. So you've got model space here, and you've got paper space here. And the viewport is just a window that lets you see into model space. And you can resize this however you want, but if you want to change the view, you kind of have to switch into model space. If you double click inside of this viewport, now you can kind of zoom around just like you would in model space to figure out what part of the drawing do you want to have show up in here. So, and then you can double click outside of the viewport to get back to paper space. The other option is when you have a viewport selected, there's this little toggle button here on the bottom left or bottom right here that toggles between model and paper space view for that viewport. So if I want to plot it just like this, what I'll probably want to do is make this viewport a little bit bigger, and you can just kind of click and drag this to fit. The dotted lines represent, on the paper space, represent the printable area. So this is, no printer can print all the way to the edge of the page. There has to be room for, the mechanics and everything. So this is why it's kind of important to make sure you've selected under the page setup the right printer. So, because every printable area is going to be different for each printer. Here's a list of printers that I have set up, but there's also going to be these PDF ones that are really helpful. These come with AutoCAD. These are just virtual printers that will let you print these paper space views to a PDF file, which is really helpful. So if I do just the DWG to PDF or the AutoCAD PDF, I would say, well, whichever one you want. PDF file has different kinds of scaling and compression, so you got to be careful with that. That's where you get the smallest file on the web and mobile and everything. Generally speaking, I would say do the high quality print or the general documentation. These small ones, I don't know that really are worth the trade-off is probably not worth it in terms of the resolution. But if I'm just going to do the regular DWG to PDF for now. And that shows you this printable area. So, I could try to get a bit more space here. Now the problem though is, even though this is the printable area for the PDF, if I ever then do want to print this through actual printer, the real printer might not have the same margins and everything. So that you may want to pull up the actual printer first just to see what the printable area is. Okay, so this printer has got pretty good printable area. So I can have some confidence that that PDF one will work just fine and nothing will get cut off. Oops, what happened? Oh, it switched my paper size to full bleed. Full bleed means all the way to the edge, which you don't want to do. So if you don't see those dotted lines, make sure you get them back. There you go. Okay, so now I can go into the model space and I can do zoom, enter, and I can just select the part of the drawing I want to have on this piece of paper, and it will zoom up to that, and then I can flick back to paper space. And now this thing's ready to go. So if I now right-click on it and select print, it brings this up, and it's just going to confirm all those settings. So this is the printer you're using, paper size, so on and so forth. You are using the monochrome plot style. Now here's the important thing. Pay attention. Don't click this button that says Save as PDF. That uses the Mac operating system PDF converter, and you want to use the AutoCAD one. So I know that you're making a PDF file, but don't click that button because you have a DWG to PDF printer selected, and if you just hit the button plot, AutoCAD will make the PDF. But if you use this button, the formatting is going to be weird. So hit this button. It says plot. And then it'll go to a PDF file. So it pulls this up and it says, okay, well, where do you want to put this PDF file? Let's see. I'll stick it on my desktop for now. Save that. And then it has this thing where it says, oh, look, you can open the PDF file that you just did. So I'll click that, and it will open it up, and there it is. So now I've got a PDF file of my drawing. If you haven't already, I would highly encourage you to, you have a free subscription to Adobe Creative Cloud as a student of the university, and you should take advantage of that, because that will give, that mainly because it'll give you the full version of Adobe Acrobat, which will give you a lot of flexibility in managing and creating PDF files. Don't use Preview on the Mac. It's fine for just casual working on stuff, but for detailed and complicated PDF drawings, Preview is not going to be your friend. Get the full version of AutoCAD, Acrobat. It's free. You already have paid for it with your student technology fees. You should just use that. It'll be fine. Now this is what I was telling you about the line weights. You see how the line weights are kicking in on this text? I'm right on the edge here of this being legible. If I tried to do this on an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper, this would bleed all the way together and I wouldn't be able to read any of this. So I'm right there on the edge of being able to deal with this. It's already, all the letters are starting to kind of blur together. So this is borderline. Might end up wanting to do a bigger piece of paper for this. Okay. Questions so far?
So does it get worse? Does the text get worse the smaller the?
Yeah. So let me show you. Let's just do one. Let's do it real quick. I'll switch this to 8.5 by 11, and then I'll shrink the viewport down. Okay. And let's see what I end up with. Okay, so here's the 8.5 by 11 version. Yeah, you see what's going on there? Some of this I can't even read now. And the little lightning bolts got totally blurred together. So the line weight, it does not scale. The line weight stays consistent. Even though the text gets smaller, the line weight does not. So you want to be really, really careful about how you do that and what kind of paper size you choose. Okay. Here's the yes.
I changed the settings to monochrome and it changed my connections and my outlines, but nothing else. Like the text in the interior was still covered.
Let me see what we can do. Okay, so are you? So zoom out for me. Oh, you're still in model space. So switch back to paper space. No, the left there. No, the one next to it. To the left. To the left. Okay, now zoom out. All right. So now enter the model space and zoom that to fit. Okay. Now switch back to paper space. Now let's look at your plot styles now. Could be that you have some objects that are not defined by a layer. so let's escape out of that and go back to paper space now. And let's look at your process. So go to setup. Try setting the printer. It gives you PDF. And let's try it now. Does anyone else having that problem? No. Everyone else's are showing monochrome when you preview it. Try to do a plot and see if it happens when you actually plot it.
Mine's showing monochrome, but whenever I was trying to pop up the PDF on Adobe, it's like it wouldn't work, but it would do it in preview.
Yeah, don't just preview. It's because you have preview set as your default PDF application.
Oh.
So you need to open it manually in Acrobat or make Acrobat your default.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, hit plot, see what happens. Still doing weird. So there's something with your file. Let's revisit this thing. Okay. So there's some, I don't know if maybe you've got some layer things that are bypassing that or what. But we'll figure it out in a minute. Okay. So that's the basic process of plotting to a PDF file. If you're going to actually spit it out of a real printer, you just select that printer and hit print plot, and it'll come out of the printer instead. Most of the time, we're going to do PDFs. We very rarely print things out. I usually will do a print during a load-in, just so we have a paper copy during a load-in, and we're not having to like zoom in on a phone or something, because that's really annoying. But for the most part, we'll leave it in PDF. Now, here's the next thing I want to show you, though. If you're going to generate a whole bunch of drawings, you really want to have some way of identifying all of them, having some information that tells somebody what is this drawing, what's it for, what project is it attached to. And you do this by creating what's called a title block. And a title block is just a little block of text and labels and stuff that gives you that information. Now, I will show you how mine works. So I'm going to shrink my viewport here a little bit first. And let's see. So I'm going to go here to Insert. I say Insert and then Block. And here's all my blocks. Now, actually, I have one already inserted here. So we'll take this one. Okay, so I put that in there, and it's going to ask me, okay, how many drawings are there going to be in this whole package? So I'll say 10. What is this drawing? This is the system diagram. What's the name of the show? I don't know. What show should we do? The Wild Party. I am the drafter. The theater is Friedman Theater. Designer was Seth Hutton. No scale, and it's going to automatically populate a date there. File name, school name, which if there's 10 drawings, this is drawing number whatever of that 10. So I'll say 1. Okay, there it is. It has all that information. Now this is my 11 by 17 title block, so let me change my paper size back to that. Okay. And then I can set it where I need it. And now I can kind of line up my viewport with the title block. There you go. And then I can go ahead and re-center this in here. Okay, that's ready to go. So what I want to show you is how to make this, how to make that title block. So we're going to start by creating a new drawing, okay, using that AutoCAD DWT template, not your template, just the generic one, okay? Now, the first thing you're going to want to do is figure out how big this thing needs to be. You're going to want to make one for 3 different paper sizes: 8.5 by 11, 11 by 17, and 24 by 36. And so you're going to redo this each time. You don't want to just scale it because that doesn't always work really well. You want to make a different one for each thing. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to draw the size of paper here. So if I'm going to do my 11 by 17 one, I'm going to make a rectangle and start it at 0, 0. And we're going to do 17, 11. So we're just going to draw this in real size. So this is, that's an 11 inch by 17 inch piece of paper. Now, here's the,
What was the dimension again?
11 by 17. So 17 on the X, 11 on the Y. Here's the thing though, we know that no printer will print all the way to the edge, okay? So we don't want to build our title block to be all the way to the edge, because otherwise it'll get cut off when we try to print it. So we want to make this a little bit smaller. My rule of thumb is take off a ½ inch on every edge of the page. So you're going to shrink this whole thing by an inch. So instead of 11 by 17, we're going to do 10 by 16. So I'll do 16, 10. All right, that's going to be what I'm going to consider the printable area for purposes of making a title block. Okay? So now I'll get rid of that 11 by 17 rectangle. And that is the area that I'm probably going to be effectively able to print in. Then you got to ask yourself, okay, well, where do you want this to show up? There's 2 main ways of doing this. You can do what we call the ribbon style title block, which like goes all the way at the edge here, takes up that full side of the edge. The other one is you can do like one that kind of fills the bottom corner like that. Some people will do that. Just given the kinds of drawings we usually do, I prefer the ribbon style, just because, we rarely have, if we're doing like a system diagram or something, like, we're going to be using that full vertical space for the drawing. So having that thing in the corner will mean that it's going to cover up part of the drawing, or we'll have to scale the drawing down. So I prefer to do the ribbon style. So the question then is, well, how much of the page do you want to take up for this? Well, how many inches do I have in printable area here on this horizontal? 16 inches is kind of what I figured. So every inch you take up with your title block is space that doesn't get to be used for your drawing. So let's take a look at what like 2 inches might look like. So if I did like -2, 10, that's probably all right. I think I could live with that. I could live with taking up that much. That would leave all the rest of this for a drawing. Yeah, that makes sense? All right, so that's the area I'm going to make. So now that I've got that, I'm going to delete my big rectangle, and now I'm going to move this one. You want to have this one set to insert at 0, 0, so at the origin. So let's go ahead and drop a point at 0, 0, and then we'll take this thing and move it and snap there and then you can delete the point. So that way you know it's right there. So now what you're going to do is you're just going to start laying this thing out. So I usually, this is where you can kind of, I'm going to give you a lot of license here to kind of do this the way you want. But let me tell you the information that you're going to want to have in here. You're going to have a drawing number. So drawing number 1 out of 20, right, kind of indication. You're going to want to have an area for the title of the drawing. Like, what is this drawing called? You're going to want to have an area for the name of the project or the show or the production or whatever it is. Like, what is this related to? You're probably going to want to have at least a place for your name or somebody's name that's attached to it. You're going to want to specify maybe where it's happening in some way, like the name of the venue or the name of the company that's producing it or whatever. Just like, where is this happening? And you're going to want to have, I prefer to put 2 things in there that auto-populate. One is going to be a date, which is the plot date. The day that I hit print. I want that date in that title block, because if I have revisions and stuff, I want to be able to know, what day version of the drawing am I looking at. So I always like to have a date, a plot date. Now, if you want to do time, you can do that too, but I find date is sufficient. So what is the day that I hit print that generated this drawing? Okay, and then I'm going to want to have a field showing the file name for the AutoCAD file, because sometimes maybe you'll have multiple versions of copies of that file. People are working on it, you're passing it around, and you have this drawing now in PDF, and you want to go back and edit and make some changes. You want to make sure you know which file you need to go back to. And so I always try to put the file name in the title block so that I know for sure that I've got the right file. Okay? So you could add other things if you want. You can look up examples and some paperwork. There's stuff like out in the walls here. You can look up online. You can check like our Teams archives and see kind of what kind of things people are including. It's up to you. This is going to be your title block. If you do this right, you'll never have to do it again. Okay? So I'm going to start laying it out. The first thing is I want this big little kind of square area here that will have my drawing number. So I'm going to do a line. And I just want to be a square, so I'll do 2 inches up from here. Maybe do that. And then I think from here, I'll just kind of divide this remaining area in half. So let me figure out what that would be. So I'm going to draw just a guideline from there to there, and then I'll have a midpoint to snap to. So probably there, and I can delete that guideline. And maybe there, and I'll do like the drawing title there, and the title of the show or the project in the one down there. And then I want to subdivide this once more. So let me make another guideline here. Something like that. And then I want to split this up into 3 rows, I think. So I think I'll make a guideline there. And yeah. So this is 2 inches tall, so what would be 2 divided by 3? It'd be 0.67, right? So I'm going to do, from here, I'll track down this way and do 0.67. And I'll do another one up from here, 0.67. All right, now I've got some places to put things. All right, so now I can start putting things in. So the first thing I want to do is a bunch of labels for just like what each of these fields are going to be. So this is where I'm going to want to create some text styles. So I'm going to make one that is title block labels. And in this case, for the title block, because you always know exactly how tall this text is going to be, because you're never going to scale this thing, you're going to draw it exactly to the size that it's going to be on the page, you can go ahead and use these true type fonts if you want. The pen plotter fonts aren't necessarily going to, you don't necessarily need those. So I'm going to just choose Arial Regular. That's a nice sans serif font that'll look really good when it's small. Now the text height here is, generally speaking, the rule of thumb is 3/16 is like the smallest you ever want any text to be on a piece of paper, and have it still be readable. So what is that in decimal inches? 3 divided by 16 is 0.1875. So I'm going to put that in as my text height and just see how that looks. I'll apply that. Okay. Let's see. So let me actually change that. Text style to title block labels. And I'm going to make one that says drawing number. Okay, so I want this to be along the top here. So I'm going to rotate it. And let's place it there. So then I'll have a big number right here. And then down here I'll say of, and then have a new number. That's a small number. So drawing big number of 20. So I'm going to go ahead and take this one that I made, and I'm going to move it down here. And this will just say of. You with me so far?
What size did you make the text again?
So I did it 3/16 of an inch, which turns out to be 0.1875 if you do that division. Generally, if you read USITT drafting standards, they kind of suggest 3/16 is about the smallest you should ever have any text, and expect to be able to read it. All right. So now I want to put a label here. So this one is where I'll have the drawing title. So I'll take this and copy it, and we'll put it up here. And just to make things consistent, I want to make sure I'm lining all these up accurately. It looks like that's right. Okay. So I'm going to take this one, and I'm going to track down to the intersection point there, and then snap it there. That way I know the spacing is going to stay the same. And I'll call this drawing title. And then I'll make a copy of that, put it down here, and this will be show title. All right. Let's see. this bottom one is where I'll put the file name. Now that text is getting a little big. I'm gonna have to make this smaller, we'll see. So that'll be file name. And maybe we'll do plot date here. Let's see, I think I'll do venue here. What other information should I have? So maybe I'll do like designer and drafter. And this will be company maybe. All right, yeah, I'm gonna need to make those smaller. So let me go ahead and select that text. Because the 3/16 isn't gonna cut it for that. So just for consistency's sake, I'm gonna shrink all of them. So instead of 0.18, let's just do 0.1 and see how that works out. Ooh, that's going to be maybe a little too small. 0.13. I like that. I think that'll work.
I just needed the other three on that side.
As far as what I'm doing?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm doing venue, designer, drafter, company, plot date, file name. I would say the only ones that are critical for me is the plot date and the file name. The rest of this could vary on your project, or if you want to put different information, that's fine. You can put some thought into that. Okay, so now I just want to like take these and move them back up to the edge now that I've made them smaller. Okay. Still might be a little large when I get to these ones here, aren't they? Yeah, I'm going to break the rule and make these smaller just because the important information is the label itself. You know, what the actual information is that's going to go in that box. And so I'm going to take these, maybe a 0.11. Okay, let's try that. We'll see how that works. Okay, so now we get to the clever stuff. So if you haven't already, go ahead and hit save. Everybody caught up? All right, I'll wait a minute, because the next part is tricky. You can also rotate this thing out while you're working on it if it is annoying to you to have it all be vertical. You can just do this for now and then rotate it back when you're done. That's fine too. In fact, looking at it this way, I think I might tweak a couple of things here.
Would you put that in highlights?
I goofed around a little bit. I ended up at 0.11. How we doing? We ready?
Yep.
Okay.
Wait, can you go on one more second?
Yep.
I'm just trying to get spacing around this.
Yep.
What are the dimensions of your perimeter box?
I did 10 by 2. You might be able to stretch it to 10 and a half, and assuming you'll have a 1/4 inch margin.
I was just looking at the space and kind of making sure that mine was
Yeah.
correct. And it was like,
Like here's the one that I showed you. What did I end up doing? Yeah, I ended up doing 10 by, oh, I only did 10 by 1 on this one. It was only 1 inch. So, you know, some of this is try it out and see. This, I might decide this is too big, but for now it's fine for what you guys are gonna do. All right, we ready? Okay, so now we gotta start populating this stuff, but here's the thing. We wanna be able to use this over and over again, and some of this information will change. None of these labels will change, but the text beneath them will change from project to project. So you wanna set it up as something that can change easily when you insert it as a title block. So the first thing we're going to do is let's do this big number, okay? The drawing number. Now I'm going to go in to my, I want to make a text style for that number. Let's just figure out kind of how tall it would need to be. Let's say 1.2. So I'm going to take new text style. We'll call this title block big number. What did I say that height was going to be?
1.2.
Thank you. 1.2. Okay, and that's my active text style. So now here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to teach you a new command. ATT, or ATT def, but ATT enter. And that's going to create what's called an attribute. And an attribute is, ultimately it's a text object that has prompts with it and will show up as an editable value when you insert this as a block into paperspace. So the tag here is just something that it will show as when you don't have a value in there. So I will say dnum for drawing number. The prompt is, what is the question that it's going to ask you when it asks you to assign a value to this? So I will just say drawing number question mark. And then you want to put a default value. So I'm going to just say default value will be 1. And then you set your text style. I'm going to do my big number. And this one we want to do probably middle center alignment so that as this grows, it'll grow from the center of that box. And everything else is probably good. So I'll hit save, and now it says, where do you want to put this? And I really want to have it be there, but I really want the insertion point to be the middle. Am I snap to insertion point? That should be. So I want it to be there. I think I'm going to change that tag because it's too big. I don't want it to be that big inside of there. So I can go down here, oops, select this, and then if you go down to the properties, I can change this tag. I'm just going to say, well, let me do like a, oh yeah, that'll work. I'll just do that number sign. I haven't quite got it centered yet, so I'm going to go ahead and make myself a little guideline along the bottom of here so I can have a midpoint snap. And then I'm going to align it that way. There we go, that's centered. So what's going to happen now is when I insert this as a block, it's going to ask me drawing number, and it'll default to 1, but I can change it to anything I want when it inserts it, okay? So now I want to do another one down here, and we'll call this, this will be another attribute. And this will be, I'll do number T for total. And the prompt will be total drawings, question mark. Default, I'll say, will be 10.
you put a default of the other ones?
It doesn't really matter. I put 1, but it can be whatever you want. It's just like if you don't change it, what will it be? Right? And I'm going to use my title block labels one. And let's see. Put that there. I'd like that height to be the same, actually. So where's the height there? 0.11. Yeah, I forgot to change the style size. But textiles don't automatically update height when you change it globally. So there we go. Yes?
I'm a little behind. What was the second textile you had said?
Well, I just made one for this big number that I'm going to do. So I mean, you can call it whatever you want, but I just called it title block big number.
What was the justification for the of total number drawings?
I think I did just left.
So if it made them center for this one, just like.
Yeah, because I want it to, if this changes, I just want it to build out to the right, you know. Because this is not the same thing as doing your system diagram. You're never gonna move this. It's never gonna change where it is. The only thing that's gonna change is how big it gets, because you'll update it with a different value. So you just want to make sure that if you change it, that it gets bigger in the right direction. Okay. So now I want to do these ones here. Let's just see, like, how tall would this text need to be? 0.6, let's say. So I'll make a new style. This will be title block medium number. And its height will be 0.6. So now I'll do a new attribute, ATT. This tag will be drawing title. So I'm just going to put title in for the tag. The prompt will be drawing title question mark. Suggested value or default value. I'll just type system diagram. That's probably the thing I do the most. This will be the title block medium. Justification can be left. And I'll hit save, and we'll put it there. Now, I want to change my mind about one thing. Because if you think about it, look how big that is. What if I change that to a much bigger show title? It's going to get bigger than that thing, right? So I want to change my justification. So I want my justification to be fit. And what fit means is that it will never be allowed to get bigger than whatever you define. So now I got this second handle here on that right side. So I'm going to take that and set it all the way to the width of this block. And now whenever I change that, it's always going to fit in that size. It'll squish it if it has to. And that's better. That's better than having it jump out of the line. Okay, we'll use the fit alignment. And I do think, looking at this now, that my title block's probably a little tall, because to fill this, that height is not going to really translate really well to a wider or a longer title. It's going to look weird. So I think I might ultimately shrink this thing down for real, but just for purposes of showing you how this works, I'll leave it for now. But I think I might make this shorter. Yeah.
Can you just have the default as 1 for most of them,
What do you mean?
Like, does the default value matter?
It only matters in that it's, the default value is one less thing you have to type if it's not going to be something that's going to change, right? So you can have no default value, or you could have a default value, which is going to be, like I said, I'll make system diagram be the default value for the drawing title, because that's probably the thing I draw the most is system diagrams. So the odds of it needing to be that title are pretty high already. So and then I can change it if I need to. So it's just a question of, like, it's an opportunity to save yourself some typing.
So how did you stretch the value?
Well, so once I changed the justification to down here to fit, then I got this extra little handle over here that I could click and resize. And you just want to take it so it fills the area that it's supposed to fit into. See this little handle? Okay, so let me go back. Okay, so this is how I started. Everybody look up, look up, look up. This is what I had, right? And I've selected it now, and I've gone over to the properties. And actually, hang on, let me go back one more step. There we go. This is what I started with. If I look at the properties, under justify, it said left. Okay, look up, look up. I'm going to click this, set it to fit, and now this little extra little handle shows up at the edge of that little attribute. And then I can grab that and stretch it to fit the box.
So how does he justify what I put on? Because this is all it gives me here. And I can't even scroll. Hit all. Okay. Where did that change then?
There you
Hey, Jason.
go. Yes.
I can see my properties, but they're all like grayed out.
You have more than one thing selected? Yeah, you must have had something else selected. Make sure you set that to all so you can see. Okay. So I want to show you one more thing, which is we're going to skip over to these last two, the plot date and the file name, because these are fields that I want to have automatically populate with the correct information. In other words, I never want to have to type this information in. I want AutoCAD to do it for me, because it's always going to change. So this is done using what's called a field, a data field. So if you type the word field, enter, here are all the fields. And this is like the insert field. We're not going to insert it. We're going to do something else. But I want to look for let's do date and time. So I'm going to select date and time, and I have 4 different dates here. Now you can do creation date, like when was the file created, just a generic date, which will be like, I don't know. I don't actually know what that means. But plot date will be the date that I hit print. Okay? And save date is the date that this was last saved. So I want plot date. And you can set up what the format of that will be. I've just got month, day, year. You can have it be whatever you want. Now here's the thing you want, is it created what's called a field expression here. And this is a little bit of code that makes some sense to AutoCAD. And I'm going to copy that. So I'm going to select that little field expression, right click and say copy. Okay? And then I can get out of this field thing, and now I'll go ahead and make my title for the plot date. So the height here looks like it's probably going to need to be, I'll say 0.3. So I'm going to make another little style here, just called title block small. And this height would be 0.3. Okay, and I'm going to do a new attribute here. And the tag here will be plot date. Prompt will be plot date, question mark. Now, the default value, I'm going to paste that, do Command V and paste that field expression into there. And that puts it in there. Now there's another little shortcut if you want to do it this way. If I delete it from here, you see this little button next to it for default value? That will also take you straight to the insert field. And you can get it from there as well. Ooh, look, it gives you a few more options even. And it'll put it in there for you. So you can do it either way. But what's going to happen now is I can take this and stick it right here. And maybe I'll update that tag just so it's... Now, when it actually plots, when I hit plot, AutoCAD will automatically update that bit of text with the date when I hit that number, and it'll populate that with an actual date value before it renders the PDF. And I'm going to do the same thing now for the file name. So I'll take this same field, and I'll stick it down here. And if I just double click on it, this will be, the tag will be file. And the prompt can be file name question mark. And instead of doing the thing, I'll go to here to fields. And if you go to document, file name, you can specify here. Now, you don't really need the full path here. The full path is like all the way the path to on your computer. I just want the actual file name, just file name only. And display the extension just so I know that it's a DWG. I hit choose, and it'll automatically populate that with the name of the file that you're working with. Okay? There you go. Now, this is my little cooking show moment. When you're all done, and you've made all your attributes and all your fields, and you've obsessed over the text heights and the dimensions of everything for 20 hours or whatever, and you're happy with it, hopefully what you have is something that looks like this. So here I've got all that same stuff, and I've got my fields in there, so on and so forth. And now, and I've just named it, it's just a DWG file called border tabloid. And if I close that, now the other thing I want to show you is that I have it lined up where the bottom right corner is actually lined up with 0, 0. Okay? And that means when I insert this in, this will be the origin of it. So when I click, I'm clicking for where do I want that corner to begin. So let me show you now what that does. So if I'm going to go ahead and just make a new drawing, brand new, nothing. Let's pretend like I had something in here. And I'm going to go to a layout now. And let me go ahead and set my page setup. And I'll do the DWG to PDF with an 11 by 17 piece of paper. There we go. And then I'm going to go, there's a couple ways to do this. you can go to, in the menu where it says Insert, go Insert Block, and it will open this up here. Or you can just skip over to that same thing there. And let's see. These are my recent blocks, like things I've used before. These are the blocks, if you click on this part, blocks in current drawing. And I have no blocks in this current drawing. So I'm going to click on this little button. It says Browse to insert a drawing as a block. So I'm going to go and find that file I made, which is over here. That's the one. And I hit open, and look what happens. You see how my cursor's lined up with that bottom right corner? That's because I put it at 0, 0. So now I can position this on the page where I want it. I'm going to stick it, I'm trying to center it vertically as close as I can. I want to get it as close to that edge of that printable area as I can without going over. So I put it there, and when I click, it brings up all these prompts. And this is where I can change what we're going to do. Now, you can see like my prompts are a little bit longer getting cut off. So, all right. Drawing title, this is where, you know, this is that save yourself some typing thing. So I put drawing title, which means now I have to type it every time. So this will be system diagram. Name of show. Let's pick a new show. What's the show you like? Star Wars, sure. Star Wars, the musical. All right, who's the drafter? Me, Jason Romney. What's the theater name? Where should we do Star Wars in?
Broadway.
Sure. We'll do it on Broadway. Some random Broadway theater. Who is the designer? Okay. Darth Vader. Oh, scale. That's another thing you should probably have. We don't usually do anything in scale, but sometimes people care about that because if they're going to put a scale rule up against that piece of paper, and they're going to be like, oh, what does this mean? So I usually like to put something that says scale. It's not strictly required, but it's a good idea. All right, there's my date that's automatically populated. I can keep going. All right, so automatically pulled in the drawing file. School, UNC School of the Arts, drawing number. We just have one right now. So I hit confirm. Everything's there. It's good to go. Now, if I then hang on to this and I keep saving and make more layouts and everything, when I ultimately plot it, that date will change if it's a different day. It'll automatically change before it plots. Okay? So, your assignment is to make some title blocks. So, let's review. Wow, that's really small. Oops. All right, your assignment is to create dynamic title blocks. Dynamic means that it changes like that. Are we okay? Oh, okay. All right, so dynamic title block, use them to plot your system diagram and loudspeaker plot assignments to PDF. So you're going to take the last two assignments you did, which was the annotated system diagram and the loudspeaker plots, and you're going to plot them to PDF. I want you to create 3 different sizes of title blocks. Make one that for an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper, one for an 11 by 17 sheet of paper, and one for a 24 by 36 sheet of paper. Here's a little tip. Don't just make the 8.5 by 11 and then stretch it. I will know if you did that because it will look terrible. All right? You got to actually make it 3 times. There's no shortcuts here. The point is you do it right now and then you never have to do it again. So here's some things I want to have. I want to have drawing number, total number of drawings, drawing title, project/show name, scale, designer, drafter, theater name, date, file name. So that's the minimum information I want to have in there. If you want to add other things, you can add other things. All of these should prompt you for information when inserted as a block, except for the date and file name, which should be auto-updating data fields. Okay? And I want you to turn in 5 different files. I want a new copy of your DWT file that contains your title blocks. So you're going to go into your DWT and open this block editor and insert your title blocks into the DWT so that they're sitting here ready to go. And that way you don't have to go find them later. They're always going to be in your template. Now if you end up updating it later, you can go in and remove it. You can delete it from your drawing, but have it in your template. So I can look at your template file and see that those title blocks are already there. That way you don't lose track of them and they're automatically in your template and everything's good to go. So a new copy of your template that has those title blocks in the block library. Then I want the DWG for each of the 3 title blocks. And then I want a single PDF file that contains all of your drawings. So I want the system diagram and the loudspeaker plots. And, minimum height of 330 seconds. That's better than 3/16. I was wrong. 330 seconds is the height, okay? So make sure that the text is never going to be any smaller than 330 seconds. And then you'll be okay. Now, here's where Acrobat will be your friend. Because you're maybe not going to have, well, we already know you don't have those drawings all in the same file, right? So you're going to end up with multiple PDFs. But if you have it in Acrobat, you can insert different files together. So I could go in and get another one. Let me just do a quick plot of something else here. I'll just plot this real quick just for fun. And I can go in here and say add something and right? And you can keep doing that and it'll add them all into the same PDF file. And then you can save it as one PDF. This is the power of Acrobat. Don't try to do this in preview. You will be disappointed in the results. All right, get the full version of Acrobat. You've already paid for it. You just have to sign into Adobe Creative Cloud, and you'll have it, okay? But you're gonna plot those different files and then stick them in here. There's some other ways to do that I'll show you later. But for now, you can do it this way. Just start with the first PDF file and then just add more to it and keep adding to that PDF file. So you have them all in there, you save that PDF, and you turn that in. Okay, so you're going to turn in a total of 5 files to me. An updated template with your title blocks inserted in the block library, the 3 DWG files for your title blocks, and a PDF file with those, your system diagram, and the 3 views of your loudspeaker plots with title blocks, proper layouts, text the right height and everything, all in a single PDF. Questions?
So as far as making the title blocks like the whole perimeter of each of the 3, is it just trial and error to try and put it onto which dimension it would be? Like, is there a way to figure that out?
Figure what out?
Just how long it needs to be, just to know how long on the page it needs to be, just so you can make it.
Yeah, I usually assume a 1/2 inch margin
From each.
because that's a mechanical printer thing, right? So I just assume that I'm going to eat a 1/2 inch on every edge of the page, right? So if it's a 24 by 36, you're going to assume that that's a 23 by 35 is the printable area. That's the rule of thumb I use. Some printers are going to have less than a 1/2 inch margin, but I think that's a good kind of rule of thumb to follow.
And when you paste the title block to the new drawing or whatever onto the printable page, it just doesn't forescale based on the page you have.
No, it's going to put it exactly the height that you drew it.
Yeah. Oh, right. So you make it the dimensions for that page.
Yeah.
And you'll paste it over, and it supposedly would fit.
It should.
Okay.
Unless you have some really weird printer that has weird margins on it. Okay. There is an argument to be made for filling the printable area, because like I'm wasting some space here, and you know, there are some that, I mean, it is possible to take this title block and scale it, but sometimes that has some unpredictable results. But if it's pretty darn close already, then and you're only scaling it a little bit, it may not be that big of a deal. But you could do a scale, specify a base point here, and then reference would be that height. And you could do something like that. And if you're just moving it a little bit, it's usually not going to be a big deal. But if you're taking like your 8.5 by 11 and scaling it up to 24 by 36, weird things are going to happen to those fonts. Okay, so you can do that if you really want to, and then you just align your viewport to the title block and fit it to the printable area, and then go in and get your drawing area and go. Other questions? Okay. So be prepared to noodle around with this a bit, because you're going to try it, you're going to get halfway through something and you realize, I made a dumb choice on the height of something. I'm going to have to go back and tweak some things, change it. Like, just be prepared for that. Like, you want to get this right. You want to do a really good job of this so that you never, ever, ever have to do it again. I made a title block years ago, probably in 2001, I made one like this, and I never touched it again until I started teaching this class, however many years ago, which was not that many years ago. 2020. So I got almost 20 years out of that title block before I ever had to touch it. And I just updated it again because if I was like, well, I'm going to teach it, let me just like tweak it again to make it easier for students to understand. But so really, if you do this right, you'll be able to get a lot of mileage out of it. Okay? Everybody good? All right. Go ahead and start working on this then.